Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OCD'er. It is Monday, the 12th of June. I'm Nick Dawson, and welcome to the channel that is dedicated to viewing OCD and all of its aspects from the inside out. I have suffered from OCD myself since I was 14 years old in one form or another. And this channel is really, the idea behind it is just to give a little insight into what it feels like to suffer from those kind of things, and to try and perhaps look at the condition in a slightly different way to try and help anybody who struggles, because I'm sure there are many people who struggle. I certainly struggled hugely in my early years, so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking to you today. Today I want to talk a little bit about what I call the snapback effect. Now, the snapback effect, when it comes to obsessive compulsive disorder, is, for me, from my perspective, a phenomenon that occurs once I feel I have gained ground and I have started to actually successfully lessen the effects of obsessive compulsive disorder and my repetitive thoughts and my repetitive behavior, the rituals that I have to try and make things better. We are a week on from last Monday, which may sound an obvious thing to say, but last Monday I had a very clear, what I consider to be breakthrough, in terms of how I thought and felt about this condition. For reasons unknown to me, I got up that morning and I felt as in control as I've felt in a long time. When the thoughts began to come into my mind, because they are the first thing that comes into your mind in the morning. It's the first thought you have before you even think about breakfast or the day ahead or anything. They are the first thought. Now, it's likely that they are actually accompanying some anxiety based around what lies ahead of you in your day. Like, for example, the separation from your loved ones, or having to cope with your workload, or not having had a great night's sleep, whatever. You know, it's a sort of chicken and egg situation in regards which actually comes first, the anxiety or the reasons for the anxiety, or the repetitive thoughts to deal with the anxiety. Last Monday morning, the same tried and tested routines that I used to cope with my repetitive thoughts, I didn't feel I needed. In fact, I felt that the only routine I needed was the understanding that none of it actually was real. The understanding that I could look at this from a distance and understand that none of it was real. And it was working beautifully last Monday. And Tuesday and Wednesday, pretty much, it began to fade and fade and fade as the week went on. And as my week went on, and the routine of having a job and 2 children and a family and a home to run starts to tire you out as you move towards the weekend, perhaps that tiredness is part of the reason why the techniques I was using a week ago began to fail. So a week on, I am back where I was prior to that. I'm back in, on a scale today of 1 to 10, I would say my OCD is about a 7.5 to 8. It's pretty strong. And not only that, but I feel as if I am in some kind of emotional low point that I can't seem to get myself out of. So what I wanted to talk about was what I call the snapback effect. Now, the snapback effect is where it's a little bit like an escape room. If you've ever been into an escape room, it's a little bit like an escape room. So you as far as this condition goes, it's like suddenly finding, last Monday was the equivalent of suddenly finding the key, the solution to free yourself from the room, only to discover when you open the door that the hallway it leads to doesn't lead to an exit, it leads to another escape room. And now you've got to figure out all over again the rules of that, and how you get out of that, and how you free yourself once more. And it can be incredibly tiring. not just exasperating, but actually physically and mentally exhausting. Forgive me if I refer to my notes. I have to write notes because I am incredibly scatterbrained. But effectively, that's where I am today. I am back in another escape room. Slightly different. The windows are in a slightly different position. Not everything is the same as it was, but effectively it is the same. Banging your head against a brick wall, trying to free yourself from a prison of your own making, essentially, but not willfully of your own making. This is one of the things I've always struggled with. Yes, the condition is that your own anxiety creates the problem, essentially. Certainly in my case. However, the ability to control how committed I am to the emotions of that anxiety, fear, whatever it might be, is not within my own reach. I can't at will adjust how badly I'm feeling, adjust how anxious I'm feeling. I can try, I can do certain things, and I can use certain techniques to distract myself. But if you start to get into a spiral, which I can feel myself getting into, if you start to get into that spiral, you are stuck. And I can feel myself going there. Last week I was above it all. Now I am heading down again. I'm heading down into that almost addiction-like cycle where it becomes a codependency of need for the routines in order to cope with the anxiety, and then the building of the anxiety because the routines have become so all-consuming in your life. And I can feel myself going there. So this week I'm going to try and make every effort I can to use some of the techniques I've learned in the past to stop that happening, and one of them is acceptance. It sounds like a ridiculously low effect technique, but acceptance is huge. Acceptance that you are somebody who is struggling at the moment. Today I'm struggling, and I might be struggling tomorrow, and I might be struggling the next day, but this is not who I am. This is not what I am. I accept that I am struggling, but I do not accept that this is what I am. And it is quite amazing for me how that begins to take some of the sting out of the power that OCD has over me. Because what it immediately does is it distances me, even if it's ever so slightly, it distances me from this thing that I call OCD. Because one of the I often talk about it as if it's an entity, that's a part of me. I often refer to it as my OCD. It's difficult to think of it any other way because you feel so enmeshed in this thing, so unwillingly committed to the hours that you spend in these obsessions and compulsions. But the truth is, the acceptance that I'm having a bad day is different from everything is my fault and I must fix it. And even saying that now, I can feel in my chest a little lightening of burden. So that is where I'm starting today. I'm going to come back in tomorrow and I'm going to just discuss where I am and what I'm feeling, and try and take that acceptance a stage further into something that's a little bit more tangible and gives me a little bit more distance. So for now, I'm going to sign off. I would love your comments. I would love any experiences you've had, any how you're feeling if you're struggling with this today. And not just OCD, anything that is of an obsessive nature is a very similar structure. The spiral is very similar and the coping with it is very similar. I encourage you to try and give yourself a bit of forgiveness. I know that is a term that is well overused. Forgiveness for the fact that you beat yourself up. Forgive yourself for beating yourself up and allow yourself a break. Okay, that's the main takeaway from this little verbal address today. So it isn't my fault. I am having a bad day, and that's okay for now. It's a small step, but hopefully it will go some way to lifting some of that responsibility-based anxiety that is a huge part of my condition. have a lovely day, enjoy the sunshine, and lots of love.